Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something. Every time I think politics can't get no crazier, here come a headline that makes me sit down, take my glasses off, and just laugh. Now we got Canada, our nice little neighbor up north, the folks who bring us maple syrup and hockey, teaming up with the Democrats down here to try and corner Trump. UD think it. Some Avengers movie. Captain Canada and the Democrat squad versus Trump. But here's the thing, when you put too many cooks in the kitchen, sometimes you don't get a meal, you get a whole mess. And, buddy, that mess is already spilling all over the table. Now, here's the first truth. People don't like outsiders telling them how to live. Canadians are wonderful people. Polite, funny accents, good bacon. But when folks in America hear that Canada got opinions about our election, they don't clap. They fold their arms and say, "Wait a minute now, who invited you?" That's the kind of thing that makes regular voters lean back toward Trump, even the ones who wasn't sure about him. Because in America, pride is a funny thing. We can argue with each other all day long, but let somebody from outside try to pile on, and suddenly we come together like family in a bar fight. That's what Canada and the Democrats don't get. The more you push, the more people dig in. Second, let's talk about Trump supporters. Man, these people don't bend easy. You can throw lawsuits, protests, scandals, whole news networks at them, and they still say, "That's my guy." It's like trying to move a bull with a feather duster. And when Democrats and Canada both start waving their fingers saying, "Trump is dangerous," his supporters just laugh and double down, because in their minds, if both their neighbors and their opponents hate him, then he must be doing something right. You can't beat that mindset with speeches. That's loyalty built on frustration, anger, and hope that somebody's finally shaking the system. You don't break that by teaming up against it. You just make it stronger. Third, the Democrats got a strategy problem. They're like a football team that got a playbook with 100 pages, but they keep running the same tired plays. Trump is bad. Trump is corrupt. Trump is dangerous. Folks have heard it for years, and after a while it sounds like elevator music, background noise, add Canada to the choir, and now it just feels like nagging. Voters don't want to be nagged, they want solutions. They want jobs, safety, and a sense that the people in charge actually understand their lives. But if all you offer is, "We're not Trump," people start looking back at the man himself and saying, "Well, at least he made it interesting." That's the backfire right there. Fourth, the economy plays a big role in this story. Everyday Americans don't care about international alliances or polished speeches. They care about gas prices, rent, and groceries. If life feels expensive and uncertain, no amount of Canadian smiles or Democratic slogans can cover that. People vote with their wallets, period. And Trump knows how to talk straight to that pain. He'll stand on a stage and say, "I'm going to make you rich again," and folks eat it up, because at least it sounds like he's addressing their struggle. Canada joining the Democrats just reminds people of elites and outsiders. And when people are broke, they don't trust elites. They trust whoever looks like they're fighting for them, even if that fighter's got flaws. Fifth, here's where it gets real funny. Canada and the Democrats probably thought they were building a big wall of opposition to stop Trump, but in reality, they building him a bigger spotlight. Every time you talk about him, argue about him, or drag other countries into the fight, you're putting his name right back at the top of the conversation. And Trump is a man who thrives on attention. He eats it for breakfast. So what happens? The more you try to silence him, the louder he gets. The more you try to bury him, the higher he rises in the polls. That's like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. That's not strategy, that's self-destruction. Sixth, there's the cultural piece. Americans, deep down, love a fighter. Doesn't matter what side you're on. We respect somebody who takes hit after hit and keeps swinging. That's the Rocky Balboa spirit. Bloody, bruised, but still coming forward. Every time Democrats and Canada throw a punch, Trump stands up and says, "Is that all you got?" And the crowd goes wild. That's storytelling, that's theater, that's politics at its rawest. When you frame a man as the underdog being attacked by big institutions and foreign powers, you don't weaken him. You turn him into a folk hero. And folk heroes don't just win elections, they build movements. Finally, let's talk about timing. You can't underestimate how quickly politics can flip. What looks like a smart alliance today can look like desperation tomorrow. The Democrats teaming up with Canada might have been meant to show unity, strength, global cooperation. But voters don't see that. Voters see desperation. They see a party so worried about Trump that they need backup from another country. And desperation don't win respect. Confidence does. When you act scared, people smell it. And once they smell it, they start asking themselves, why are they so afraid of this man? That curiosity alone drives more people into his camp. And that, my friends, is how a plan backfires. So when you put it all together, you got a picture that's almost comical. Canada and the Democrats standing on one side of the stage, pointing fingers, raising alarms, talking big. And on the other side, Trump just standing there, grinning like a man who knows the joke's on them. That's the show America is watching. And I'll tell you what, when people buy tickets to a show, they don't cheer for the chorus. They cheer for the star. The more they try to dim his light, the more the spotlight follows him. That's politics, that's entertainment, and that's human nature. Now, whether you love Trump, hate Trump, or don't care either way, the lesson here is simple. You can beat a man by ganging up on him if his power comes from being ganged up on. You can't shame somebody whose strength is surviving shame, and you can't stop momentum by giving it more energy. Canada and the Democrats might think they're fighting smart. But if history's got any wisdom, this story ends the way most backfires do. with the crowd cheering the very man they tried to bury. Eighth, let's talk about media overload. Man, I swear, every time I turn on the TV, Trump's face is there. Newspaper, social media, late night shows. It's all Trump all the time. Now, Democrats think this constant coverage is gonna wear folks down. Like, if you hear Trump is bad enough times, you'll wake up one day and agree. But that ain't how people work. That's like playing the same song on the radio 50 times a day. At first, you hate it, then you know all the words. Then, before you know it, you're singing along in the shower. Constant exposure don't weaken a brand, it strengthens it. And Trump, whether you love him or hate him, is a brand. Every headline, every scandal, every Canadian Prime Minister side-eye just feeds that brand. Democrats forgot the golden rule of show business. There's no such thing as bad publicity when you read the star of the show. Ninth, let's hit the comedy of unity optics. You know how Canada and the Democrats thought people would see them standing together and think, wow, look at all this unity. Man, that's not how regular folks saw it. They saw it like a high school cafeteria. You got the popular kids huddling up in a corner, whispering, plotting, and pointing at the kid sitting by himself. But here's the twist. That kid sitting alone, that's the one half the class secretly roots for because he's not part of the clique. People don't like bullies, even when the bullies wear suits and talk about policy. That unity that was supposed to look strong. To voters, it just looked like ganging up. And in America, we got a soft spot for the underdog, no matter how loud, messy, or unconventional he might be. 10th, here's the kicker. Backlash energy. Every action in politics has a reaction, and usually the opposite of what you expect. When Democrats and Canada team up against Trump, they think they're building momentum against him. But what they're really doing is fueling his supporters with fresh energy. It's like throwing wood on a fire. People who might have been lukewarm, maybe ready to sit this election out, suddenly get fired up again. Oh, they're trying to silence our guy. They're teaming up with foreigners to take him down. Nah, not on our watch. That's the fuel that turns apathy into action, and action into votes. And the thing about backlash is, once it starts rolling, you can't stop it with press releases or speeches. It's a wave, and that wave always crashes harder than the folks who created it expected.